Today I want to talk about something I think the queer book community needs to do better, and that's content warning in books. Specifically, I want to discuss two books, More Happy Than Not by Adam Silvera and Dreadnought by April Daniels. I read More Happy Than Not last year because I had heard it recommended so highly. The way people talked about this book was as a bit of a tearjerker, so I went into it knowing there were going to be some heart-wrenching moments, but I wasn't expecting how brutal this book is. When I think of a sad book or a tearjerker, I think of something that might make me tear up in the moment, but not something that's going to keep me up at night. They're cathartic, and what I'm not expecting is trauma. More Happy Than Not deals with suicide in a major way and homophobia, both internalized and external. Spoiler alert, and I'm pausing here in case you want to skip forward. The main character is a victim of homophobic violence, and it is described. He has self-loathing about being gay, and there is casual bigotry throughout the book. On top of that, and here's another spoiler, so skip ahead if you want to. Just letting you know, this is your time to skip ahead. But on top of that, the ending is bleak. There is not an uplifting ending to cap off this experience. I didn't know about any of that before picking this book up, and I'd heard it recommended a lot. Dreadnought by April Daniels is a book I just finished recently, and I picked it up after hearing that it's about a trans teen lesbian superhero. I haven't heard as much about this title, but if you actively seek out trans books, you've probably heard of it. Side note, the queer book community also needs to promote trans books better. I don't know about you, but when I heard trans teen lesbian superhero, I immediately imagined a fantastical, escapist romp of a read. Just like Tumblr is always asking for. Because why wouldn't your superhero be trans or gay or both? So I was surprised to find that although Dani does wear a cape and fight supervillains, she also has to fight everyday trans misogyny and abuse in her life. Dani begins the book with suicidal thoughts. Her father is incredibly emotionally and verbally abusive, and the book spells out the things that he says to her, including slurs. Even a good amount of her fellow superheroes are cis sexist. This was still a great book, but it should come with some warnings. Luckily, although I was surprised by the content of these, I wasn't personally triggered. More Happy Than Not is about a gay guy, and Dreadnought mostly deals with trans misogyny, so I haven't experienced the bigotry associated with those identities. What worried me, though, is that won't be true of all readers. As most people who care about diverse books know, queer books can be incredibly important to LGBTQI readers. Being queer often means that you don't grow up with any representation of yourself, even within your own family, so you have to seek them out. Reading about someone you can relate to in that way for the first time can be an incredible experience. I can only imagine how excited a young gay Latino teen might be picking up More Happy Than Not, and seeing that this is a book about someone that they can relate to. So how horrifying to then get into the book and realize that it's depicting your future as a grim prospect that anyone would run from if they had the opportunity. That you should fear for your safety, both physically and emotionally, because of the people you might fall in love with. There's so few trans books out there, and I can imagine a trans teen girl being super excited to pick up a book about a trans teen superhero. And then I imagine her heart sinking as she is reading through all of the vitriol that the main character's father is shouting at her. I don't mean to say that there's anything wrong with these books. We need books that represent the huge diversity of queer experiences, and that includes the sadness and even violence. For someone who's experienced that, they may draw strength from stories that reflect that and characters who survive it. I can see Dreadnought especially being a great source of catharsis, showing this character who has endured an incredible amount of pain and pushed through to the other side. These stories are important, and we need to see them get into the right hands. For every baby gay that wants a cotton candy queer story to give them hope, there's another who wants a story that represents the hardships that they have endured. Often we start by seeking out light, happy narratives that give us hope, because that's not something we really see in mainstream culture. And after that, we as queer readers might be able to take on complex, difficult narratives about queer experiences. When you're first seeking out queer media, it's such a vulnerable time. And even those of us who have been out for years or even decades can feel sucker punched when we unexpectedly encounter a bleak narrative about queer people. That's why it's so important to be clear about the queer media we recommend. BookTube has already had a discussion about how queer content is not a spoiler, and I hope that we have accepted that. But I would like to add on to that trigger warnings are also not spoilers. This should always be true. If you're recommending something that might include content that could be triggering or traumatic for some people, you should let them know know that. Books that include rape, suicide, bigotry, these are things that we should tell people about before they pick them up. It's irresponsible to recommend a book that might be harmful to someone's mental health without telling them about it. If you're not queer, you might not know how insidious these messages can be, but even the people I know that are the most out and proud have struggled with thoughts of feeling wrong or broken or confused. And reading a narrative that reinforces that can really set you back if you're not prepared for it. We should be mindful of trigger warnings at all times, but especially queer books, because so often people are going there specifically because they're trying to relate to the main character and they're trying to put themselves in their shoes. So if something happens to that main character that is traumatic, that can be a really hard thing to process as a reader. Let me know in the comments if you've encountered any books that you were surprised to find could really have used some trigger warnings. Have you noticed that books are recommended on BookTube or book blogs that don't come with warnings when they should? And do you use trigger warnings when you're recommending books? I'd love to hear from you guys about this, and thank you for watching.